Hi and welcome back to my channel Lilly Code, where we're on day 29 of 100 days of code. So today what Max is starting off with is we've progressed to a new chapter. There was a bug to fix on the current project, but moving on, Max has started a new chapter, chapter 11, and we're going to be building a food ordering app. So I'm pretty excited about this, so I'm going to start this and come back and do the final edits on the previous project at another stage. So first of all, what we're going to do is just set up our project here. So we have our login and logout component built. We've gone through the different hooks, React hooks throughout that project. So that was really insightful and I learned a lot. So now we're starting our building a food ordering app, which is really exciting as well. So first of all, we're going to get our project set up. So there's some starting code that Max has provided. So I'll just close everything and we'll go and have a look at this. So yes, so we need to just go to our actual code file manager here. So I'll just find this first and then I'll show it to you guys. So okay, cool. So here we are in our file explorer. If I just zoom in, can I zoom in? Yeah. Okay. So here we are in our file, in our files explorer, file explorer, and these are the associated files that come with this particular project. So we're on chapter 11 now, so I will just extract this particular folder and I'm going to name it something else because the names is just too long in here. So instead, let's extract this here. Okay, let's just extract it in here. And I'm going to, extract, cool. And then it'll show me the extracted files when it's done. So then we can get our project running and start making a food application. So some of the things we'll be doing in this particular project is we'll be adding a header component, adding a cart button component, adding meals, then adding a form, shopping cart, because there's loads to be done. So this is exciting actually, this is going to be a big one. So if we go back in here, this is it, I think. Well, that said it opened it for me. Should be 11. So 11. Let's just do that again. So okay, yeah, so it's there. Okay, cool. So it's actually in here. Cool. So here we go, and I'm just going to rename this to 11 because it's 11, and I'll just move these somewhere else. So here's our project. So now we can open this in code. So if we just right click and we can go to open with code once you've installed code, and when you did install code you selected that option on installation, and then you can also still switch it on after installation to just open with code. So then here is our code editor. We can just get rid of this one. Here's our code editor, and yes, I trust the authors. And now we're going to just do an npm install. So here's number 1. Cool. So we'll open up our terminal, we'll cd into our code folder, and then 01 for starting the project, and we'll do an npm install. So great. So we'll just let that run and install all of our packages that are listed in our package.json. So if we come in here, this is the folder we've come into, starting the project. So he gives you the code for each of the different various stages, which generally I haven't really looked at these too much because once you follow along with the video you should be progressing through these, but if you get stuck it's very handy to have a look at what might be going wrong. So it's useful to have those at each of the different stages. But here we have our app.js within our source folder. So the source is where your project files are actually kept. This node modules folder is the folder that's being created as a result of running npm install, and where it's getting the information for this node modules is in our package.json. Yes, is in our package.json, which is the file that tells the npm install what to actually install. So it'll come in here and install all of the different packages that we've specified, which is just these. So we don't have loads. That's actually quite a small list. And cool. So while that's going there, cool. So we'll just wait for this to finish, and then we can start to run our project and start following along with Max and coding. So cool, that's now done, and we can just run npm start, yep, to start up our project. Cool. So now if we reload, we should see our new application. Okay, awesome. So this is what we should be starting with. And the first thing we want to do is create a components folder to add our various components in. So in this O1 starting project, which contains all of our project, and then within our source folder, so where we have all of the different files associated with this project, I'm just going to create a new folder and call this components. And then within here we're going to start creating our own custom components that we're going to use to flesh out this app. So we want a UI subfolder. So this will just contain UI elements. And we'll add another folder, new folder, and this is going to be the layout folder. And another folder, and this is going to be the meals folder. So this is the biggest project we've created so far. And then our final folder is the cart folder. So new folder, cart. Cool. Okay, great. So then within our layout folder now we're going to create a header.js, which will be our header. So we want a file within this folder, so new file, and this will be called header.js. So there we go. And we also want an associated CSS file, and we're going to use our CSS like we have done in some of the later parts of this 100 days challenge. So within the past, since day 20 we started using module.css for our CSS folder, so we could pass in the CSS with a particular name. So we give it a name, so import, say, styles from our CSS folder, and then we can use it within our JSX by passing in an object and accessing the various CSS classes like that. So we'll create that file as well, which is going to be our header.module.css. Module.css. So cool. So we're just going to set this up as we have done for all of our various React components. So the import React from React isn't necessary. You don't need that anymore because React does that automatically for you. We were just including that to show that it can be included, and you will see it in legacy projects. So we can just start this off with const header, so the name of the component we've created, and then pass in the props. So just a general arrow function in order to define this component. That should have been an open curly bracket, excuse me. And then we'll just export this as well so we can use it outside. So default and header. Cool. And here I just want to return the JSX code. So we want the header and then an area below the header, so we'll figure this out now. Okay. Okay. So we just want a header and an image in our particular header here. So what we're going to do is import fragment, because we're going to use a fragment. So before we had react.fragment, which would mean we would import React. So we could do it like this, react.fragment. Like so, or else, and then we would have to import React from React. Just like this. But instead of doing this, if we want to remove this React dot, we can just import fragment instead. So we can do it like this, import fragment, which both of these are the same. Like that. And now we want to add in our header, so I'll just add in my curly parentheses here so I can drop that down because I just like it like that. And then I'll bring these in, and then in here we want a header tag and a div for our image. Header and a div, so that's fine actually where it is, and then a div. Cool. And I'll get rid of this accidental closing tag. So now in here I just want to add a h1 tag and give my name. So this is going to be React Meals, and we want a button as well for the cart. And then in here we're going to display an image. Awesome. Cool. So now we're also just going to create an assets folder within our source. So you can have an assets folder which just holds your logos or your icons or your images. So we'll create that folder to add things like that in, and we're going to add an image. So this is going to be our assets folder, assets. And in here now we will copy in the provided image. So here is our image. So we'll copy this and just paste it into our assets folder. So paste. Awesome. So now we have this image that we can work with. Okay. So you just import the image. Import. So you can call it whatever you like, but we're going to call it meals image, and then we're going to import it from that path. So the path is assets, we need to go up a level into the assets, and then we should have probably created an image folder, but we just have our meals.jpg there. So that's fine. We can see our meals.jpg within the assets folder here, and we just had to go up a level and up a level again in order to come in here then. And then we just provide the path to the image within the image tag. So this will be so we will do this like this, and it's going to be meals image, and then we add some alt text which just describes the image for screen readers, or an alternative if it doesn't display for some reason. So we'll say a table of delicious food. So awesome. So we've also been provided with some CSS. So if we come back down to this provided files, here we have our header.module.css. So I'll just copy all of this code and paste it into our own header.module.css, because this is where we actually want to link that styles that Max has provided, and then we can actually use this. So back in our header, now we can do the thing I was talking about earlier on, where we're going to use the images, or the styles from the CSS file with the .module.css approach, which in order to use this we import and give it a name. So I'll call it import styles, and then we just give it the path. So from header.module.css. So there we go, and now we can use that like this. So in our header we'll just say class name, which is how you add a class in React, and then you can open up your curly parentheses and say styles, because that's what we've called the access to this folder, and then you can just do the doc property to access all the different classes within that folder. So there we go. And down here we will also add another class name. Classes. And this time we're going to access the main image. So you can also do it like this, the same way that you would access the items in an object. You can access them, so you can either pass in the square brackets and put it in quotes, or you can do dot notation. So that's what we're doing there. So class name, yeah, and then also on our image, that's fine, yeah, that's how we want that. And we still haven't actually displayed this anywhere, so now we'll go to our app.js and actually display this header in our app.js. So in here, so instead of our h2, let's add in our header, and that should automatically import it, yeah. And this can be a self-closing tag. And we'll just, instead of wrapping this in a div, we'll wrap this in a fragment, the same way that we did in our other. So there we go, it did the automatic import for us and imported fragment from React for us. So classes is not defined. Oh yeah, because I called it styles, excuse me. So here, there should be styles instead, not classes. So now if we save, and we have another error, no we don't, perfect. So look, that's already taking shape. We've already got something going on there, it's looking good. We have our header with our React meals, what we passed in, our button and our image. So let's keep on going. And then we can see the CSS that was just automatically included with the project. So the background and things like that will be in this. So here's the background color and different CSS that's making that the image fit the way it is, and just the general styling that we see. So now we're going to work on the button, because this button doesn't look great. So we'll create our own button component for this. So that would go within the UI folder, because it's a user interface thing that we are using. But considering we're going to use a button component within the header first of all we're going to create a component in here in order to use a button that we're going to make within this header. So we'll just create a header cart button within this layout folder. So new file, and this will be header cart button.js. And then we set this up like we have done for all of our other projects. So we just create generally create a component the way we have always done, so const, and then you give it the name, and then you just make a function, and then that's your component declaration. So button. So there we go, and we will export. Default. So what we want to return is a button, and then we want a few spans. So So now in our cart folder, we've also been provided with an icon. So we can copy over this icon, and the icon should be down here in the provided files. So cart icon. There we go. So we'll copy this, and this is just an SVG. This is just an icon. So we'll copy that and put that into our cart folder so we can use it. Paste. Max provided this for us again with this course. I'm just gonna open the window, it's a bit warm. So yes, we'll just continue here. So I've got my cart icon now in my cart folder, and now we can use this cart icon. So we will import it in our header cart button. So let's just import it the way we would import any other component, because that's how we've added it. So we're just exporting the SVG using this component, and then we can use it down here. And then in the second span, we're just going to say your cart, and then we will add a number in the third span. So cool. And then we'll just get our different classes as well, so our styles. So we have also been provided with a header cart button module, which is just our style. So I will copy this too and paste that into this same folder, because our two files should remain beside each other for our JavaScript and then its associated CSS. So I've pasted that in here, and then we can import this. So we'll just import styles or classes or whatever you want to call it. So styles from, and then we give the path to that particular folder. So that's going to be header cart button .module.css. There we go. Okay, and now we can actually add these classes the same way as before. So we just go class name equals, open up our parentheses, and styles is the name we've given to access this folder, and then we can access any of these different classes by just doing dot and giving the name of the class. So we'll say classes styles.button, and here we want start. Okay, yeah, so styles.icon .icon, and then that should be okay. and here we'll have classes.badge, or styles. So class name equals style. So maybe classes is a better name because we're saying class name dot badge. So then we just save that, and now if we go back and take a look at our site and reload, that has not yet updated. So I think we actually need to implement this. We haven't yet told it to use this, so we need to go back, yeah, to our button, and we want to actually use that instead of our button in our header. So here in our header we do not yet have a button, so oh we do, yeah, here it is. I knew we had that button, yeah, that's what we were updating. So instead here what we're going to do is add our header cart button. So there we go, and then if I copy this, and that's automatically imported it for me, my IDE, my code editor has done that for me. So then if we save and go back and have a look, we should see that this button will be updated once this is finished loading. So let's just see that. Didn't go so well. Just got water all over myself. So let's just check our terminal and make sure nothing is wrong here. So if we go back to where our code is running and just make sure that everything looks like it's running okay here. Well, it doesn't look like anything's happening at the moment. Okay, so I'm going to just kill this and run it again. So if we cd into our code folder and then into our 01 folder, our starting. So I didn't tab and complete that request there. I just had 01 and it said it cannot find it. So I just forgot to hit tab, because you can start typing and then hit tab and it will auto complete once you have a unique project name. So if I had two different folders with 01, I just have to type a little bit more, and then once I had a unique name, when you hit tab it will complete it for you. And now we can do npm start. So let's just run that up, and then once this runs we should either get an error and know what we need to fix. Sorry, I just kicked my footstool. So we should either get an error and then know what we need to fix, or it should just load. So let's see what happens now once this fires up. So it looks like it's been successful there. I will just close this other window because now we're waiting on this one, and I'll also open up my developer tools with Shift, Ctrl and I, and there we go. We can see our updated cart. We can see the number of items in our cart, which at the moment is static, but as we start adding and removing items from this cart, this will dynamically change in a later episode. So we'll just keep on watching, because I've done Max's, I haven't done this course before, but I've done Max's courses before, and we made something similar in one of his Angular projects. Well, we just had a cart and it had various things that you could upgrade in the cart. So it was a skiing shop that we created in that one, and this is a menu. So I just have an idea that he will make that dynamic, and that makes sense to make that dynamic. So now this is our button, which is great. So just continuing to listen to the project here. So now we're going to continue on with the meals and start having a look at them. So we'll create our meals.js, so new file, meals.js, and also bring in my associated CSS because I'm sure there must be some. So meals. Okay, so he has a meals.js, then a meals summary. So I'll copy the meals. So here, why is this there? Okay, so just seeing as this has some text in it, I'm going to copy that as well. And we might as well just get the CSS for all the different meal stuff in, because I presume this will all be added to the same folder. So we'll copy those files, just the CSS, the associated CSS, and then we're going to write our own JS and paste it into this meals folder. So I'll just paste, and there isn't an associated CSS for just the meals, and I think that's because we're going to create JS files for each of the meal items and the meal form and the meal summary, so therefore the CSS will be contained in them, and the meals is just going to pull them all together, I think. So that's what's going to happen there. So just looking at the CSS files we have here, I can sort of gather what JS files we're going to need, because these should be associated with a corresponding JS file. So we'll just create a new folder here. Well, they don't have to be, but we are tightly coupling our CSS and our JS files here, and that's a good approach for React. You want to separate out your concerns, so it makes sense that we're going to need a corresponding JS file for each of these CSS files. So we'll do that. We'll just create a meal item.js, and we're going to need a meal summary.js too. So new file, meal summary. Is this a file? Yeah, I think so. Summary.js. Cool, yep. And meal item form.js. So let's do that as well. New file. .js. Cool. So then we're going to start off with our meals summary.js. So yeah, so this has already been wrote for us, so we don't need any props coming into the meal summary, and all this is returning is back some text here. So we have delicious food delivered to you in a H2, and then a paragraph and another paragraph, and this is all contained in a parent section tag, because when you're returning JSX you need to have one parent component wrapping all the other components. There must be a high level tag that wraps the other tag, so we can see that here, so that's fine. I'll just keep on watching. And then we'll just have a look at our meal summary module and just check that this summary class is in there, and here we've called our styles classes, so that's okay as well. You can call this whatever you want, but that's just what you have to refer to it then as, and you use the dot notation to access those classes within your module.css file. So there's our summary class, and we also have something going on with the header here. So for the H2, any H2s that are contained within the summary, we want the font size to be 2 rem and no margin at the top. So if we go back to our meal summary, here is our section with our class name of summary, and anything within here that's a H2, which is just this particular line here, this will be 2 rem and have a margin top of 0. So we'll continue on. Cool. So he also has an available meals JS, so I will also create that folder or file. So available meals.js. So cool. And then here we just set it up like we have for all of our other components. So we don't need to import React. You can if you want to, but it's not necessary in this version of React. So available meals, and this should be capitalized because we use Pascal case when defining React class names, and this is just going to be an empty function here that we're defining, so we can just do it like this and give our arrow and like so, and then we will also export default and the name of the component we've just created, and we'll add in our semicolons too. Okay, so then in our available meals, we should have an available meals down here. Here we go. This is our CSS. So, okay, so I will actually copy this as well because we know we're going to need this. This is the associated CSS for this particular folder. So I'll just, for this particular file, excuse me, so I'll just paste that into this same folder. And then what Max has in his available meals.js is just an array of dummy meals. So I do not see that. I don't see that folder available, so I'll actually just search for it, right? So dummy meals should be the name. There we go. Okay, so available meals. So it's in a different, in the third folder, but anyway, this is what we need. So I'll just copy this, and I'll copy the import, because why not while I'm there. So if I copy this array, and then we will just plug it in ourselves. So all this is an array of dummy meals. We've called it dummy meals, and then we're opening up our array here. It's a constant called dummy meals, and this is equal to an array, and the array contains many different objects, and the objects have the properties ID, name, description, and price. So we'll be able to loop over this array of objects and display these dummy meals on our site. So if we go back to our available meals here, I can just paste this in at the top of the file. So we're going to have our import and then our dummy meals. So cool. And now we can actually use these dummy meals. So now we'll add a return. So yeah, for the moment this is just a dummy array. It's just a hard-coded array, but we could be fetching data back from a database or something in order to show something dynamic here. But for the purposes of going around the React project and getting used to React, we're just going to use a hard-coded array. So we just want to return, say, a section. And then we'll have an unordered list. So cool, it's very warm. Okay, so now once we have our unordered list, we can add in our meals list. And what this meals list is going to be is pulling in this information from our array. So we just after we've declared our function here for available meals, the name of the file, we'll add another constant called meals list. So what we've just said down below, and this is going to be our dummy meals, yep. And we just want to map over them, which means go one by one and show me each object within this array. So we'll map them, and for each object we'll call it a meal, and then we're going to do something with that meal. So we want to convert each meal into a list item and just display the meal.name in the list. So there we go. So now we can actually use the CSS as well, because we've added our module, our css.module, which is just some CSS that Max has given to us, so we can focus on the React rather than CSS in this particular course, because it's a long enough course anyway. It's very long, so we're focusing on React and getting used to the various hooks and how React works as opposed to CSS. So in here we see we've imported our classes from available meals.module.css, which is that particular CSS file that we've created here. And then what we want to do is just use that by using class name, as we have been doing. So we'll just specify class name, and in here we've called it classes, and that should be an equals. Yes. And then we want to say classes.meals. And if we go and have a look at that file, there will be a meals added in here to the CSS, a class called meals. So then if we come back to our JS and add in the rest. Okay. So then within our meals JS, what we're going to do is stick together the meal summary, which is this particular component, and our available meals. So they're both going to be displayed within our meals.js. So we'll set this up in order to allow us to do that now. So we want to just set this up like a normal component. So we declare a constant. This is just going to be a function, an arrow function, and then we export default meals. So we can use this elsewhere. So for example, in our app component to display it on our main page of our site, and then we'll return a fragment, and that should import fragment for us. And then we can also import our meal summary and our available meals. So meal summary, and we can just self-close this, and then our available meals, and close this too, like so. And there we go. So we've imported all that, and now we can, because we've also exported it, we can use it elsewhere. So then within our app component we can actually use this. So within our main, we want to have a main element here, which is just saying this is the main content of the page, and in here we will add our meals component, and this can be self-closing, and that should automatically import. So once we save, okay, so we're having the error meals is not defined, and that's because it didn't import it first. So we can just import it ourselves, that's no problem. Once you're trying to use a component, you do need to import it. I did export it, let's just make sure. So export default meals, I did. So back here in our app.js we can just import it ourselves. So we'll say meals, and then from, give our quotes, and so we just want to go, okay, yeah, into components, then into meals, and then meals. So now it should be able to find that. So if we save, what else is going wrong? So in our app, so there we go, it just took a moment. So let's have a look at this. So awesome. So there's the text that we added, this is our summary, and here's our meals available. So that's great, and we have some errors as well. Meals is not defined, app.js 8, so let me just do a hard reload, empty cache and hard reload. So now we only have the error that each child in the list should have a unique key property. So for each of these list items of our available meals, we need to also pass through a key. So that's fine, we can do that, but we can see that this is coming on quite nicely, and our page is starting to get built up, so we will continue on. So what we're going to do now is within our available meals, we want to make this look a little bit better, so we'll wrap this in a card component, which means we also need to create a card component in order to show this. So yeah, okay. So Max gave us the option to go ahead and try this, so I'm going to just go ahead and give this a shot. So within our, not within our cart, sorry, so within our UI folder we're going to need a card file. So we'll create that card.js, and we should have been provided the associated CSS. So here's our card module.css. So I'll copy that, and then that can just be pasted into our UI folder. So I'll paste that in here. And then we're just going to declare our React component like we have the whole time, just a function. So const card, and then get our function going here, an arrow function, open up and say return. And what we want to return is just a div with the class of class name of card. Yeah. So we're going to equal this to styles.card. So this should just be styles instead of style sheet. So, or let's just say classes. And then we also need to import that up here. So I will import styles from, and this is going to be from card.module.css, and then we'll just export default card. So yes, I'm missing my closing div. I was wondering what was going on there and I just didn't see it for a minute. So then we'll export default card. And now if anything we wrap in this particular card, maybe we need to pass in the props as well, but we'll give this a go for the time being. So what we wanted to wrap was our available meals. So if we go to our available meals here and come down to what's being returned, rather than returning this out in a section, we'll wrap it in a card. So I'll just change this to card, and then that's automatically imported that for me, and save and see what's going on. So classes is not defined. So let's go back and check what we've done in our card module here, or in our card.js. So let's just check our meal summary or our available meals and just make sure. So import classes from, and then we've just given the name of the file. So now I'll go back and just check what's wrong here. So import, okay, so I didn't call it classes from card.module, so that's why I couldn't find it. I gave it the wrong name. And now, and it doesn't like this return, which I thought it would be okay because it's all on one line. Okay, so it's done this. So let's just keep watching and see what Max does here, but I'll just also open up our curly parentheses and put this inside just for following the same convention I have been following, and see what Max is about to do. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, so I had a feeling I had to pass props in, right? Because we need to know what to display within this card. So in this particular instance, we need to pass in props. And then down here, what we're going to do is we'll pass props.children. So that class name is fine, that's just the class. But here, what we want to show within our div is our props.children. Children. So now let's see how we're doing. Awesome. So now we can see our card we've created and we've passed in our available meals. So that's great, cool, we're seeing that working, and we'll just continue on. Yep, cool. So now he's just wrapping his meals in it and we already have that done. So we have an unordered list. So does he. So why does he have no bullet points? So let's just check what Max has done here. Okay, so what he has done is in his app.js, no, in his available meals.js, down in the return statement, he has an unordered list. He still had his list item up here, meal.name, but he's kept his section because this class should be on the section. So I'll just cut that and add back in the section because we should keep that going by Max's code. So I'll add in the section with this class name and then close that off, wrap the rest of our text in it. So as you can see, if we have it like this, it gives out that adjacent JSX elements must be wrapped in an enclosing tag. So we need a parent tag. Now what we actually intend to do here is section is going to be the parent. So if I move this down here, that's now wrapping everything. So that's okay, that's at the top level, there's only one item, not two. Whereas before, if we have it like this, so section is at the top level, and if we had section like that and then another card at this level, you can't do that. You need to have one thing wrapping it, which is why we use these fragments that can be just placed in like this, or it can also be placed in empty. So you can have a fragment like that, or you can also have a fragment and then this would just be indented for readability, or you can have a fragment like that as well. That also works, and then that wraps everything in a parent component. But we don't actually need that. That was just to show you what's going on there. So once we go back to the way we actually want this, we have our section wrapping our card, and if we save, we now no longer have them bullet points. So we just had the classes on the wrong classes.meals on the wrong component. So okay, cool. So here we can see .meals, that needed to be above the UL, because within the meals, then we're telling it for the UL have list style none. So that's why it wasn't working when it was on the wrong component, because if it was down here, then it's not within, there is no UL within the meals. Well, it still should have, but that's what was going on there anyway. So if we just save and then continue to watch the video. Okay. So in order to track the meal item and just stop this particular folder getting a bit too crazy, we're going to create a subfolder here. So new folder, and this is going to be called meal item. So great, we have that there, and then we will move our meal item stuff within it. So we'll move those, and we'll also move our meal item form within our meal item folder. I have like the hiccups all of a sudden. So we'll just move that within our meal item folder and continue on. So we need to just set this up like all the other components. So we declare constant and a function, and this will be called meal item because that's what we've called the name of our file in camel case. So capitalized letters all the way through is the React standard, and then is equal to our function, which is just going to be an arrow function. Open up our curly parens, add our semicolon, and then export it. And meal item. So great. And then in here we're going to return a list item, and within here we want two divs side by side. So we'll just have a div, and then we have another div. Great. So then within the first div we're going to have a h3, so a header, and this will be props.name. So if we're passing through props, if we're trying to use props, we need to pass them through. So prop should be included in this function here. That's what we want to pass into this component or function. Same thing. So we'll pass it in, and then within our second div we just want to add props.description, which we'll also pass in now when we use this component. And then we're going to create a constant for the price. So, yep, up here, we're going to say constant price and equal that to backticks dollar curly braces So we want to add two dollar signs and then curly parentheses. And what this is doing is, tell you now. So we have a template literal, they're the backticks. Okay. Yes, so this, the reason why we have dollar and the curly braces is this is to display out some special code, and then this dollar sign, so we actually want to display a dollar sign as well. So one is to display a dollar sign and the other is to get the value of the constant or the variable that we pass in. So to inject dynamic content, yeah. So we want to inject props.price, and then we want to make it 2 fixed so that it only shows to 2 decimal places. So we'll pass in 2, we want it fixed to 2 decimal places, add our semicolon, and then down in a third div within our list item we can add this. So we have a div, and this is going to be price, and this is what this has allowed us to do here. So here we are just grabbing that the props.price to fixed, and that's going to convert this to that actual value. stick $1 on front of it, and that's equal to the constant price. So when we do this here price, that's what we're going to be displaying, is the price, props.price to fixed, so to 2 decimal places with a $sign. And then we'll set up our meal item form as well. But first of all, actually back in our meal item, we just want to add our styles. So we import classes from the associated folder, so from meal, or file I should say, so meal item.module.css, semicolon, and then we just want to add our various class names that are in that file. So if we go into our meal item.module.css, we can see we've got meal, description, price. So we can add these now to our meal item and use those various classes. So on our list item, this is going to have the class name of meal. So class name is equal to, and these curly parentheses are just in order to allow us to use this .module approach where we can say class is dot the class name. So the class name is just meal from that file. And then I'll copy this because we're also going to add something similar to this div and the div below. So this is going to be description, and then we have price on the last one. So I put the description in the wrong place, we can move it, that's okay. So this is going to be price, and that's not syntax highlighting correctly because I just missed a space there. So if I add in that space, that should be all good. And then this class name should definitely be on the one below it, which is the props that is bringing out the description. So where we're passing in the props and we're getting the description from the props, this is where that class name should be, and we're just missing our closing curly parentheses there. So if I save, our meal item should be finished now. So now in our available meals, we can use this meal item to display the available meals like that. So we will import our meal item. So we'll import meal item, just like we've done our card and our other components. So meal item, and there it's done the automatic import for us. And then rather than displaying these particular meals as just meals, a list of meals, we can use this pre-styled and component that we just created, which has the styles and are displaying things the way we want. Up here, instead of just a list item, we have our meal item. So we can replace this list item like that. And then if we save, we are getting a problem, and the problem is with this particular line. So to fixed. Yeah, so I passed my brackets. So that should be okay. So let's just go back and have a look. That's in. So here, if we just read our errors, how we read errors, and just go through this. So here it's saying that this is the folder that the problem is in, and if we follow it all the way down, it's ending with meal item and JavaScript line 4. So if we go to our meal item and then line 4, this is the line that we're concerned about. So something is wrong with this. So what's wrong with it? So we have our constant price, our backticks, props.price to fixed, and to fixed is a function, so you must pass the brackets, and we want to fix it to 2 decimal places. So let me just hard reload that and make sure that something hasn't just got stuck somewhere. So it's still giving out about that, and I don't see what's wrong. So let's just make sure and check what the errors say. So that's okay. We're going to add some unique keys. We don't need to worry about that for the moment. Cannot read properties of undefined. Okay, so we're not passing in a price. That's the problem, I think, because it's trying to do a calculation to fixed and we don't have the props. So we've passed in our props. Then in our meal item, where are we using this meal item? We're using it back in our available meals. So we need to pass in a price as well. Yeah. So now, so we just pass these in as props. So what we're going to do is say, when we use this meal item, we're going to say price is equal to meal.price. It's expecting these different props to be passed in when you're using the component. So there we go, look at that. And now also the description should be passed in from the props. So if we add that to, description is equal to meal.description, that should auto-populate that for us now. So what's gone wrong? Unexpected token. And okay, so we also have this warning, available meals fragment is defined but never used. So we're in available meals. We do not have a fragment here. I'll just do a space here so we can see that this is our constant, this is our return block. So there we go, look lovely. We have our various meals with a description, so this should actually be meal.name as well. So let's just check. So here we can see we have our description and our price, but our meal name would also be useful. So we were passing that in within here, but what we want to do instead is go back and have a quick look at our meal item, which is here. And we can see we are also expecting the name to be passed in as a prop. So we'll pass it in as a prop rather than trying to put it in between the tags itself. So now if we go back to our available meals and also pass in the name, so we'll put the name first because that just makes most sense to me. It doesn't matter what order you pass these in, but just for readability, the name seems to be a logical first. So meal.name, and we can now remove it from within in here. So if we just get rid of that and save, we have all that information being passed through. We can see our available meals and we can see the styling and what we've done there by passing it in as props. It's rendered these dynamically for each of the different meals with no extra hassle really, you know, it just did that for us. And we can see our description and our price. So that's great, we're really flying with this. I think that's an absolutely wonderful start. We've built all that in an hour, so I'm chuffed with that, and the hour is gone. So I will see you all tomorrow for another day of Code with Lilly Code. So do join me for that and have an absolutely fabulous evening everyone. Thanks for joining me. Bye.